Every big win starts long before game day. On any given Monday, we go where cameras don't. Behind the contracts, the calls, and the chaos. We'll road trip with scouts, visit iconic campuses, step inside replay booths, and walk up to the luxury suites. Real organizations, real stories, real decisions. Lace up your cleats, buckle your chin strap. Here comes our GM, Matthew Mayle.
Today on Any Given Monday, my guest is Mat Kanan. Matt is an assistant athletic director and director of annual giving and strategy within Michigan State University's athletic department. He is a proud Ohio University graduate, OU, yeah, and has his master's degree from Western Michigan. Go Broncos. He is also a Fremont Ross graduate. Now, when people think about Fremont Ross, they may think of Charles Woodson, but we don't want to talk about the Wolverines today. And Matt, did you know that Fremont graduate John Thunder Lewis Jr. scored for the Spartans in the 1956 Rose Bowl on a 67-yard fourth quarter pass to knock off UCLA?
I do now.
Oh, yeah? Good to know.
I'm learning something already.
All right, Mr. Kanan, tell us in broad strokes, what do you do and your team do for MSU Athletics?
Yeah. First of all, appreciate you having me on, Matthew. Really, really do. So broadest stroke, we raise money for Michigan State Athletics. My team is a part of, a larger group that is Spartan Fund. It's about 14 to 15 people on our team. And my team raises money for that kind of annual giving level that impacts someone's ability to purchase tickets in a certain location, get parking at a certain location, certain accesses, certain experiences. And it's, like I said, it's what they give on an annual level. My team really kind of focuses on that. We also oversee all of our premium seating strategy. So anybody that sits in a suite or a club level for football, courtside for basketball, suites or club for hockey, courtside for volleyball, that sort of thing. And then I also oversee our communication side of Spartan Fund. So really kind of how people consume us, our donors consume us. How do they hear us? What do they say about us? I work with our communications manager to do that. But then also parts of my team also work with the other aspects and other team members in Spartan Fund to prepare them with data or segmentation about other donors they're maybe going to go see on a visit or something, so that they're successful when they're having a donor conversation for a gift.
How do you score success within your team? Is it dollars, donors, renewals, engagement? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's donors and dollars. That's 1A and 1A. If we're not raising money, we're not helping out, our athletic department. But the other two really roll into it, and I'll tell you how. But we have a goal as a team to raise a certain amount of money every year. We each have individual goals that we need to achieve as well. But if you're just focused on dollars and not growing the number of donors you have, you won't have a pipeline for that next generation of Spartans who want to give of their time, their talent, their treasure, obviously. But engagement, renewals is one thing. If you renew people over year, then eventually they start, someone who starts as a single game purchaser evolves into a season ticket member, evolves into someone who's giving outside of their seat premiums, and then evolves into someone who is giving philanthropically at a major gift level. But then also, if you're just engaging with a donor or a season ticket member, when you just want to ask for money, you're not doing your job. This is a relationship business, and we need to continue to hone those relationships so that when we're talking with people, they feel comfortable letting us know when and how and if they want to continue to give and support Spartan athletics.
Great. So now let's jump to your career arc.
Sure.
So you came up through media relations at Western Michigan, and then annual giving at Oregon State before coming over to MSU. What did you learn from those stops, and what most shapes how you lead yourself now in the fundraising context at MSU?
Yeah, it's two things. One, no matter what area of athletics or anything that I've done, customer service and then storytelling. So whether it's a member of the media or it's a family member, an alumni, a season ticket member, a donor, um, how can I communicate with them, make them understand how important whatever their role is that intertwines with Michigan State, how important their role is to the success of our student athletes, of our athletic programs. Um, when I was in SID, which is the old term, sports information director, um, it was media.
Mhm.
How could I get our student athletes in front of, the newspapers? This is way before there was social media. So, newspapers, television stations, radio stations, so that they could help tell the story of Western Michigan or, University of Pennsylvania, where I was at before that. And so that was important because then it elevated the notoriety of our athletic programs, but also then was something that was, made our student athletes feel good because their mom and dad, you know, were in across the country and they could hear or see or read about their son or daughter.
Mhm.
Translate that into fundraising. Yes, the audience is different, but the concept is the same. The people that we're talking to have a passion, they have an affinity for Michigan State. So they want to know exactly how they can impact Michigan State. So we're telling them the story of Michigan State athletics, and whether it's women's tennis or men's soccer or gymnastics or football or men's basketball, um, it's our job to kind of make that connection with them and their
Mhm.
passions and what's a priority for us.
So while at Oregon State, you helped tell the Our Beaver Nation story. Can you share a little bit about your work there?
Yeah, it's Oregon State will always hold a special place in my heart and my family's heart. When we moved out there, um, our daughter, we have two daughters. Our daughters were 4 and 18 months old, so they grew up there. That's where they kind of became themselves as people. So from a family standpoint, I will never forget my time in Corvallis and in the Pacific Northwest. Professionally, it's where I'd say I grew the most, because I went there as a communicator and I evolved into really learning how communications can help fundraising and tell the story, as I mentioned. And then it kind of like evolved that into honing the skills of becoming a fundraiser, a more direct line fundraiser. I wouldn't be at Michigan State without my time at Oregon State. The people that I worked with and learned from at Oregon State are, I mean, some of the best people I've ever worked with. I will continue to have those friendships. They're resources for me. They're sounding boards. I still call my former boss, Aaron Escobar, on a regular basis, to get his opinions on things. Former coworkers, to get their opinions on things, and really just it was a great time for me and my family.
Um, all right. So Oregon State is in the Pac-12 and all that realignment happened. Could you take us inside a little bit of that conference realignment?
So yeah, I mean, so conference realignment started, way before 2023. Um, I mean, this SEC was the Southwest Conference way decades ago. You had Maryland and Rutgers join the Big Ten years ago. You had Oklahoma, Texas decide they're going to go to the SEC a few years ago. So realignment isn't a new thing. But yes, that moment in time was kind of a shift in college athletics. Um, I tell you what, I respect what Oregon State and Washington State have done since that day, to really solidify their place in college athletics, understanding the impact that those two universities and athletic departments have. on the landscape of college athletics. It's a master's class, honestly, in leadership, because you had to go through what they went through and find kind of that North Star for them. And they had to retain talent at the athlete level, the coaching level, administrator level. And they've done that. Very excited about what's going to happen with the kind of reimagined Pac-12.
Yeah.
When it comes, when it opens up, next year, 26, 27. But it shows what is a constant in college athletics, and that's change. And so I have a hard time kind of articulating it, because it was such a, like I said, shift in college athletics, but it's not something that hadn't happened before. So it was happening to a place that I knew firsthand for the first time for me. Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens with the newly rebranded, or it's not even rebranded, the new Pac-12 come next year.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's jump over to Michigan State a little bit and talk about the Michigan State as a whole. So Michigan State, established Big Ten powerhouse. When you think of Big Ten, you're gonna think of Michigan State. But the Big Ten has grown a lot in the past decade. Not even talking about conference realignment, but just in sports as a total. I mean, last two football national champions both came out of the Big Ten. Basketball, I mean, it's always really the Big Ten. So what are donors most interested in their dollar supporting now that the Big Ten has grown so much larger?
I mentioned this before. It's, no matter the size of our conference, and our conference is, we're at the top, and that's awesome. And it was competitive before, and it's been elevated with the growth and expansion of the Big Ten. But I mentioned, kind of tying what people are passionate to what our priorities are, and that remains constant. We need to continue to do that, because no matter if it's the Big Ten or the SEC or the ACC, each of our universities, we have, priorities that are important to us, that are going to help move our successes forward. And so that's what's really important. We have to get in front of our donors and educate them on what is important to us, to be successful. Don't get me wrong. Donors and season ticket owners, they like winners. They want to support winning, but they also, and I've learned this from having conversations with donors, they want to know how they're impacting. How is their dollars or their time that they're devoting impacting the young people that are a part of the university? So I take that with me as much as anything, because those are some things that I can help control. I can't control, if we beat Nebraska next weekend in football. I can't control if Coach Izzo, gets to another Final Four, but I can control, educating our donors on how exactly their dollars are going to impact our student athletes this year, next year, 5 years down the road. So that's really, kind of the important thing that we need to do at Michigan State.
Yeah. And so how does that conference identity and media visibility really affect your or change your annual giving?
Well, the one thing that it does is it helps us on a more regular basis. It helps get us into the homes and into the eyes of donors that we didn't regularly see or engage with in markets and regions that we weren't in, because we weren't competing on a regular basis in the Pacific Northwest or Southern California unless we were in the Rose Bowl. So that's one thing that's been a positive. We can see these people, they can see us, we can get out to them and talk to them again about the priorities we have and everything that we're doing to support and elevate Michigan State athletics. That's a huge benefit. On an annual front, we really try to capitalize on moments. So if it's a win over our rival down the road in Ann Arbor, if it's a conference title, if it's postseason, we utilize those things to hit the masses and say, hey, we're being successful right now. Help us continue success, and utilize this time to support Michigan State. So as the growth of the Big Ten and kind of the realignment of the Big Ten has occurred, it's provided us additional opportunities to get in front of people, whether it's after success or just generally through competition.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you've kind of hinted at this a little bit,
Yeah.
but do you raise money by sport, football, basketball, baseball, or is it just all athletics as a whole?
We prioritize and focus on supporting MSU athletics as a whole, because when you fund that larger bucket, it helps everybody within Michigan State athletics. Every student athlete, every varsity program is going to be aided by us funding the whole. Now, that's not to say that each sport doesn't have a fund that they use specifically. And if someone comes to us and say, "Hey, I really am passionate about Michigan State men and women's golf. I want to make sure that I'm supporting them directly." Of course, we're going to help steward that process. We're going to be a resource for them through that process. But from a priority standpoint, we really want to focus on the whole so that it can help everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. Like, we are resources for these donors. Whether it's a resource when they have a question about tickets, whether it's a resource when they have a question about making a gift, where to park. Our job is to be a resource for these donors so that they know that they can depend on us. Again, that goes back to one of our original, we originally talked about that engagement. If we're a resource in good times and bad and everything like that, that lends to someone being more apt to say, "Hey, I want to continue to support these student athletes in this university."
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's talk about NIL for a little bit.
Fun.
So,
Let's go.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, do you or how do you go about talking about NIL with donors and
Yeah.
how it coexists with other types of giving? How does that work?
If you would have asked me this question last year, my answer would have been completely different than it is now.
Okay.
NIL before July 1, which is when the House settlement went into effect, was really, it was an education. We had to educate people on what NIL was. We had to educate people on if they make a gift or a contribution in support of name, image, and likeness, is that the same as giving to the university? So that's really kind of where the conversations were prior to July 1, 2025. We did focus our efforts on helping fund NIL. We did focus efforts on connecting people to our collective if they wanted to support name, image, and likeness. We got creative with the ability to do that when we needed to, support that area a little more heavily certain times of the year. But it came back to educating people on what it was. And now that July 1 is passed, NIL has kind of returned back to what it originally was intended to be. Originally it was supposed to be, I am a student athlete and I have a following or I have influence, maybe in the social media space.
Mm-hmm.
I have a skill set that I can maybe help teach other people, and I can now use my name and promotion of that, or
Yeah.
I can be a spokesperson for a company or a brand or a product, and those organizations are now in conversation with me and my family or representatives on all of that, and that's what 4 years ago that was kind of the intent. It kind of weaved its way, and it was a winding road to get here. But I think we're in a much better place now as an industry. I think our student athletes are better protected, and I think we're starting to we're not guessing anymore what we are allowed to do or supposed to do. We now have some rules that are in place, and we can then communicate that to donors when they have a question about giving, quote unquote, giving to NIL.
Okay.
So yeah, it's from last year to this year. I think we've made leaps and bound progress.
Okay. And so, when you think about NIL as a whole, what is one myth that you want to dispel about NIL?
Yeah, I think what it is. I think people thought, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and give money, and that's going to filter to these young people, and I really don't know. They don't do anything for it. Well, that's not true. Um, and again, the true meaning of name, image, and likeness is being able to, as an athlete, do something that any other student um, can do who's at a university. If I'm a chemistry student and I want to tutor, I can go on social media and use my account, use my name, use a photo
Mm-hmm.
of my image, and I can earn money off of that.
Yeah.
Well, before 4 years ago, a student athlete couldn't do that. So I think just getting people to understand that it wasn't something that, NIL is not a negative. This is something that is beneficial for these student athletes. And also, NIL has really put an onus on educating young people about their financial security. It's places like Michigan State, we have programming on financial literacy so that these young people understand when the money comes in, what does it mean to be taxed? What does it mean to balance your budget? And what does it mean to really kind of be an owner of your brand and the benefits that come with that
Yeah.
and the pitfalls that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if there's any myth is that it's just, oh, these kids are just getting money and so on. It is something they're earning, and it's something that is going to help them in the long run as they become adults and they have to figure these things out, for themselves. Anyways, they've got a little bit of a leg up.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about your work, impact on the student athlete.
Yeah.
Um, this year at MSU, what are some recent tangible changes that annual giving funded um, affected a student athlete? Maybe not specifically, but just like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I totally get it. Um, so we as the Michigan State University have something called Give Green Day. It's our university's annual day of giving.
Okay.
Athletics is a huge part of that. Um, I'm very proud to say I would probably touch on this, if you're gonna ask me, accomplishments, but
Hmm.
our team raised $1 million for Michigan State athletics in one day. And not from major gifts of like big chunks, but of annual level gifts from thousands of
Wow,
people.
that's awesome.
It was awesome. And the cool thing was it was a team effort. I mean, it was everybody in our team. Everybody, we had members of our ticket sales team helping out. We had members of our marketing and communications team helping out. That was something that really impacted all 700 of our student athletes. But the one thing I would say that is, if I had to pick a tangible thing, we have a program called Brunch on the Banks, because one of the slogans at Michigan State is on the banks of the Red Cedar. And Brunch on the Banks is something that provides food to our Olympic student athletes, our Olympic sports student athletes,
Hmm.
weekly. And so what this did is the money we raised allowed us to go from providing 1 to 2 meals to 3 to 4. So it
Wow.
was helping raise money to fuel the bodies and the minds of our student athletes. Because yeah, you have to fuel the body for competition, but you better fuel the mind
Hmm.
for classes and for just your daily life. So that was something I'm really, really proud of that our team had a hand in. And like I said, it impacts everybody.
All right. Okay. That's awesome. That's great. So let's say you have to name a couple more accomplishments that you've had throughout your career, not just at MSU.
Yeah.
What would those be?
So let me go back to my days as an SID. One of the coolest things that I got to be a part of was in 2009, our quarterback at Western Michigan, Tim Hiller, he was a finalist for the William V. Campbell Trophy, which is essentially the academic Heisman in college
Okay.
football.
Yeah.
So we went to New York City with his family, and just to see his family experience that with him, it was insane. Loved it. Same thing. A couple years later, our wide receiver at Western Michigan was a member of the Walter Camp All America team. Jordan White is his name, from Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
Um, And so being a part of that, seeing that ceremony with him, very, very cool. Um, Fundraising side, I would say is the first kind of like fundraising campaign that was really mine. It was at Oregon State. Um, we had just won our third national title in baseball,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and we needed to raise money to um, kind of renovate and expand our trophy room at our baseball stadium. Great problem to have.
Yeah, not a bad problem to
Not
have.
a bad problem. Got to find a room for that third trophy. And so it was a crowdfunding kind of digital fundraising campaign that we raised $250,000 to renovate this space. Um, and we did it by selling wood planks that became the floor
Oh yeah.
of the trophy room. So you or your family could have your name, depending on where your plank was in the room, was the different like levels. And so you could have your family's name on a wood plank next to a national championship trophy.
That's awesome.
Um, that was really fun, but it was cool because again, um, it was my first kind of like solo campaign.
Hmm.
But I would say my biggest accomplishment, and this might sound cheesy, so I apologize, but give me some latitude here, is I've reinvented myself um, multiple times. I didn't start my career in college athletics. After college, I worked in corporate
Okay.
in the telecommunications industry, still communications, but um, not in furthest thing from athletics. And so going from that to athletics, and then going from SID media relations to a hybrid of both fundraising and communications, and then kind of evolving into a frontline fundraiser. Um, that has been that's something I'm really, really proud of, because I've challenged myself to change over the years, and it's something that I will kind of take with me through the rest of my career.
Yeah. I wouldn't call that cheesy at all. That's great stuff. That's awesome.
Appreciate you.
So what are some of the greatest challenges that you faced throughout your career?
It's kind of a segue from what I kind of just left off with is, you know, I internally I feel like I've had to prove to myself that I belong, because like I said, I didn't. Most people that start off in college athletics, like you graduate from undergrad and maybe you are a graduate assistant working in a different a part of college athletics or
Mhm.
within an athletic department, and then you become an intern, and then there's those steps that you take. um, I came in from the outside, so really just trying to prove to myself that I belonged in this industry, um, and working with people to make sure that I was providing them with what they needed from me in my role, but then also understanding what I could gain from learning from them and at each stop, whether it was Penn or Western, Oregon State, now Michigan State, I'm always trying to continue to learn to be better.
Yeah.
And so that's, I say, is that's an you know, ever occurring challenge that I have.
Yeah. Okay. And now let's look at athletic funding, NIL, big time college athletics as a whole.
Mhm.
In the next 5, 10 years, what would you kind of think is going to happen within athletics in those spheres, and what would you want to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think realignment is going to continue. I think that's there's this those shifts are just are there. And I think you'll see them kind of like stage gates when there's like new media deals come up with certain conferences. I think that conversation will continue to escalate at those times. I think expansion of postseasons, um,
Hmm.
whether it's football, obviously the men and women's NCAA tournament. I think you see that, you hear about it in the media. Like
Yeah.
that's low hanging fruit, I think. Um, I want to see continued guardrails when it comes to NIL, transfer portal, um, revenue share, which is brand new. It's not even 6 months old. It's just making sure that those things um, are understood to the point where, like I said, we're not guessing on what the rules are. We're not guessing on how to navigate them. Our coaches are equipped with you know how do they recruit to that, and with that in mind, how does our administrations and our university and our department leaders, kind of progress our strategic plans in this landscape that is ever changing. And I think that's one thing, is that the biggest change is going to be change, is that's going to continue. And I think that we've learned that over the past, I mean, you go back 5 years with COVID, we weren't, I mean, we're not the only industry that had changed how we do things.
Yeah.
But that was, I would say, probably maybe the first time where you really had to fundamentally and philosophically take a look at doing things differently. And that, prepared some universities and departments and administrators and coaches for the ever changing landscape that has kind of happened since 2020. So those are the things I think that probably will happen, and I hope to happen.
All right. And what advice would you give to someone wanting to get into the sports business, whether it be, funds, whatever, anything? What would you say to them?
Be curious, ask a ton of questions. Ask, call someone up and ask them if you can do an informational interview. People want to they want to help people, and they want to talk about themselves too. I mean, it's fun,
Mm-hmm.
but also they want to educate people about why they love what they're doing and why we get to do what we get to do.
Yeah.
So I think asking questions and being curious is fundamental. Be open to change, not just like geographically, like I have to move here to progress my career. Just be open to change of mindset and philosophy. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Don't Failure isn't the end. A failure just fuels your success later if you learn from it, going back to learning. And just when considering, whatever position, make sure at least, one aspect of a position you're going to be taking, whether it's at a new university or a different department, you should be a little bit nervous. Every position I've ever pursued and attained, there was an aspect of it that I was like, okay, can I really do this? Am I ready for this? That kind of just fueled, now me personally, that fueled my fire. That fueled me to want to be successful. So having that little bit of nervousness of what's next,
Mm-hmm.
Learning curves aren't bad, but just learn. And so those are some of the things that I would say are most important. And yeah, I mean, just be open, be curious, and don't be afraid of your failures.
That's great advice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, now the fun part. I got a little lightning round for you. Some quick questions here.
Go.
All right. What sports did you participate in when growing up in Fremont?
So I was a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
From the time I was, 9 until through my junior year. And then I did I played baseball, like when I was a kid growing up.
Yeah.
But then I ran track for 1 year. And because our
Mm-hmm.
wrestling coach just wanted us to stay in shape in the spring. But I loved it because you got to take food to the meets, and that didn't happen in wrestling.
Yeah.
So I remember one time I took a bunch of food to the meet in a cooler, and I was sitting in the infield having whatever snack, and my coach comes up, he's like, "Matt, you just completely missed your event." And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm sorry." But so track wasn't my sport, but it was a lot of fun.
That's funny. All right. What's the best campus to visit for an away game, and why?
Whew. Um, huh. Are we talking football?
Yeah.
Football. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to tell you stadium wise, Rose Bowl. So let's go UCLA because of the Rose Bowl, because it's the Rose Bowl stadium.
Yeah.
But I would say University of Washington
Oh yeah.
has some of the best game day atmosphere
Hmm.
around the stadium and then inside the stadium. It's very, very I don't want to get anybody upset with me. There's passionate fan bases across the country in all conferences. But yeah, it's a unique setting and one that I think should be on someone's kind of like college sports bucket list.
Oh yeah, it definitely seems cool there based on all the games I've seen them play.
Yeah.
All right, let's say Spartan Stadium food court draft pick. You have to pick for entire season, only one concession for the whole season. What's it going to be?
Walking tacos.
Oh, great choice.
Easy. Love them. They're so not good for you, but come on.
All right.
A bag of Doritos with the tacos on top. Come on.
That's awesome.
Okay.
All right. This next question need to be 100% truthful, honest. Okay. Who on campus gets more selfies? You or Coach Izzo?
Come on. Coach Izzo. Coach Izzo.
All
Followed very, very, very closely by the president of our university, Kevin Guskowitz. He is on campus all the time. And if he sees students walking
right.
around, he'll come up, talk to them. Hey, you want to take a picture? He's awesome.
That's
So yeah,
awesome. That's great.
I'm very far down that list.
Coffee or tea or something else to start the morning? What's it gonna be?
I've never been a coffee drinker. And so if I have to have something as a pick, I'd probably do an iced tea with two Splendas.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm sorry for all coffee drinkers out there. I can't stand the taste.
All right, give me a little scouting report on a Sparty. You think he can take down Brutus?
You know what? It's fun. Sparty, before I came to Michigan State, like you think of iconic, mascots, and Sparty is. I mean, he's
Yeah,
one of
he's
one.
up there. Yeah.
He's up. I mean, and so don't want to condone violence, but I mean, he's a Spartan.
Spartan gets a nut. I mean,
He's a Spartan. I mean, you've seen the movie 300. That's pretty tough.
what's louder? A right before tip off at a hoops game or right before kickoff at Spartan Stadium?
Both are pretty darn loud. I'm gonna give it to Breslin Center in basketball because
Mhm.
it's closed in.
Oh yeah.
Some of the sound does kind of escape into the ether at Spartan Stadium, but I would say Breslin Center, and I would also give a nod to Mun Ice Arena.
Yeah.
6,000 fans in Mun Ice Arena, like on top. I mean, if you ever get a chance, it's a great experience, and it's pretty darn loud.
All right. Final question here. What are you doing on any given Monday?
I say on Mondays is really that's why I focus on like my one-on-one meetings with staff. It's a great way to kind of look back at the previous week. If there's any kind of like outstanding things that we needed to make sure are buttoned up. It's a great time to do that. Plus, it's the start of the week, so we kind of look ahead, see where we need to focus on for the week, and go from there. Now, if I'd say those are probably like Monday mornings, and then Monday afternoons. Really, if I'm kind of trying to set my week, whether it's a home game week for football or
Mhm.
if there's any home competitions, if there's people I want to see donor wise, I try to lay out that schedule. Or if I'm going to be traveling to a different part of the state, try to line that stuff up so I know what my week looks like ahead of me.
All right. Awesome. Well, that's all I got for you. Thank you.
Matthew, thank you. I really appreciate it. Go Green.